This is the second part of our lecture about the development and the congenital anomalies of the main arteries.
Objectives of the lecture. By the end of the lecture, the student will be able to explain the relation of recurrent laryngeal nerves to the six aortic arches, summarize the fate of the aortic arches, define the congenital anomalies of the main arteries, explain the causes of the congenital anomalies of the main arteries. Now we will discuss the relation of recurrent laryngeal nerves to the six aortic arches. As we know that the six aortic arch is divided into ventral and dorsal portion. Ventral, here is the ventral, here is the dorsal on the right side, here is the ventral, here is the dorsal on the left side. The recurrent laryngeal nerve here on the right side hook around the sixth arch, and also on the left side hook around the sixth arch. But on the left side, the dorsal portion remain to form the ductus arteriosus. Now, let us see what happened to the position of recurrent laryngeal nerves in the adult due to a embryological confirmation or embryological explanation. Here in the adult, you can see here in the adult, the right recurrent laryngeal nerve as the dorsal portion of the sixth arch and the fifth arch degenerate, the recurrent laryngeal nerve migrate upward and hook around the fourth arch. Fourth arch now will form what? Will form right subclavian artery. Thus, the right recurrent laryngeal nerve hook around the right subclavian artery. Now let us see on the left side. On the left side, you can see that the dorsal portion of the sixth arch remain to form ductus arteriosus, which in the adult will form ligamentum arteriosum, obliterated and form ligamentum arteriosum. Thus, the left recurrent laryngeal nerve remain in the thorax and hook around this ligament, which is connected to the arch of aorta. Here you can see in the adult, this hook around the right subclavian on the right side, but on the left side, hook around the arch of aorta and the ligamentum arteriosum.
Let us see the fate of the aortic arches or summarize their fate. Number one, the first aortic arch, its major part disappear and degenerate, and a small portion gives maxillary artery, which is the branch of external carotid, one of the terminal branches of the external carotid artery. Second aortic arch, its major part also disappear, and a small portion gives the stapedial artery to the stapedius of the middle ear and the hyoid artery for the hyoid bone. Third aortic arch, no, it persists, and it gives the proximal part. Its proximal part gives the common carotid artery, and its distal part gives the proximal segment of internal carotid artery. And the external carotid artery arises as a branch from this third arch. Okay, the third arch divided into proximal segment and distal segment. Proximal segment gives the common carotid. Distal segment gives the proximal segment of internal carotid. What about the distal segment of internal carotid? Let us remember it is from the dorsal aorta, but above the third arch. And the external carotid artery arises as a separate new branch from third aortic arch. The fourth arch on the right side gives the stem of right subclavian artery, and on the left side gives the middle segment or middle part of arch of aorta. We divide the arch of aorta into three parts: middle part or main part, proximal part or medial part, distal part or lateral part. The middle part, which is the intermediate part or the main part, it is the part in the adult between left common carotid and left subclavian, arises from the left fourth aortic arch. Fifth aortic arch disappear completely in 50% of cases or never develop in 50%. Now let us summarize the sixth aortic arch. On the right side, it is divided into ventral portion and dorsal portion, and the ventral portion forms the right pulmonary artery, but the dorsal portion degenerate and disappear. On the left side, also divided into ventral and dorsal parts. The ventral part gives the left pulmonary artery, and the dorsal part gives ductus arteriosus, which is a duct connecting the left pulmonary artery with the arch of aorta if it persists in the after birth, but during development it connects the left pulmonary artery with the left dorsal aorta. Now let us see the congenital anomalies of the main arteries. The first congenital anomaly is an anomaly called abnormal origin of the right subclavian artery. As we, during development, we said that the right subclavian artery originating from the right fourth aortic arch gives the stem, and the remaining parts is the right dorsal aorta and the seventh intersegmental artery on the right side. This is the completion of this artery. Thus, this anomaly originates due to the degeneration or obliteration of the right fourth aortic arch and the right dorsal aorta above the intersegmental. Okay, seventh intersegmental. If these two segments obliterated, this leads to what's called abnormal origin of the right subclavian. This is the anomaly. You can see the right subclavian originating from the distal segment of the arch of aorta, just distal to the origin of left subclavian artery. And in this case also, the common carotid artery, post-common carotid artery originating from the arch of aorta instead of this right one with the right subclavian instead of originating from the brachiocephalic artery. Thus, the cause of the anomaly is obliteration or degeneration of the right fourth aortic arch and right dorsal aorta just above the seventh intersegmental artery. Now, this right subclavian pass behind the trachea and esophagus to reach the right side, to the right upper limb. Number 2, right aortic arch. This congenital anomaly leads to what's called the right aortic arch. The curve of arch of aorta is to the right, not to the left. What is the cause? The cause is persistence of right dorsal aorta and degeneration of left one. Yes, this part which must degenerate from seventh intersegmental to the fusion with the left one, it degenerates in the usual, but if it persists and the left one, this left one degenerate, leads to formation of what's called the right aortic arch. Double aortic arch, double aortic arch. Here we have right and left aortic arches. What's the cause? Persistence of the distal portion of the right dorsal aorta in addition to the left aortic arch. Both persist, right and left. Leads to a vascular ring. This vascular ring can compress or present around the trachea and esophagus and make compression over them. Another congenital anomaly called coarctation of aorta. What's the meaning of coarctation? Means narrowing, narrowing. Okay, you can see regions of narrowing in the arch of aorta. Local narrowing of aorta distal to the origin of left subclavian. It may be preductal, preductal just above the communication with the patent ductus arteriosus, here above the junction of aorta with ductus arteriosus, or postductal, postductal just below the junction of aorta with ductus arteriosus, which is now called a ligamentum arteriosum. Here, postductal may be preductal above junction with ductus arteriosus, and this usually lead to patent ductus arteriosus. It persists, does not obliterate it. But in this case, postductal just below the communication with the ductus arteriosus, and the duct now transformed into ligament called ligamentum arteriosus. Local narrowing of aorta. patent ductus arteriosus. Failure of obliteration. It failed to close. This is the connection between aorta and pulmonary artery fails to close. This is the normal heart. It closed and form ligamentum arteriosum here between arch of aorta and left pulmonary artery. But here it persists as patent ductus arteriosus, make a communication with shifting of the blood between the arch of aorta and the pulmonary artery and needs correction. Okay, let us see this in class exercise. Degeneration of which of the following parts of right dorsal aorta results in abnormal origin of right subclavian artery? Above 7th intersegmental artery, or the part below 7th intersegmental artery, or the part between 3rd and 4th aortic arches, or the part between 4th and 5th aortic arches? Yes, definitely the answer is the part above 7th intersegmental artery. Which is the embryological origin of ductus arteriosus? Dorsal part of left 6th aortic arch, or left 4th aortic arch, left 5th aortic arch, or ventral part of left 6th aortic arch? Yes, definitely the answer is A, dorsal part of left 6th aortic arch. Now, which is a coarctation? Define coarctation of aorta and mention its types. Is the local narrowing of aorta distal to origin of left subclavian artery. Its types are number 1, preductal above the junction of aorta with ductus arteriosus. Number 2, postductal below junction of aorta with ductus arteriosus. This is our resources and references will help you in this lecture. Thank you and best wishes to all of you. Thanks.